for you. The Joe Luca Real Estate Show is for the consumer, not the advanced or experienced real estate person. I don't use technical jargon. Of course, we have a lot of those folks that listen in, but I try to keep this show informative for the average person, because the average consumer is very ill-informed when it comes to buying and selling real estate. And even some, amateur investors also a little unaware of everything that is going on, or that they need to be aware of. So this is episode 674. The title of tonight's show is What Every Generation Wants in Real Estate Right Now. Excuse me. We have a lot of data that the National Association of Realtors recently released their 2026 Home Buyers and Sellers Generational Trends Report. So that is going to be the general topic. But as I've done the past several weeks, we've reviewed mortgage interest rates as posted by Mortgage News Daily. So the 30-year fixed rate this week is 6.56. FHA 30-year 6.6% even. 30-year VA 6.02%. So these rates are higher because a couple of weeks ago we were at 6.31 for the 30-year fixed, 5.88 for the FHA, and 5.9 for the 30-year VA. So these rates have gone up. And as far as I've also been quoting the price of oil for the past several weeks, since we've got this war thing going on, this excursion, and A-Star Oil, their price for Cumberland, Rhode Island is $4.17 a gallon. $4.17 a gallon, and it was $3.93 a gallon a couple of weeks ago, back on April 21st. So that is a little bit high, but it was $4.39 a gallon, I believe, last week. So we are in a little bit better position than we were back then. Excuse me. All right, so I want to talk about how different generations are buying, selling homes in 2026, and why smart buyers and sellers need to stop assuming that everyone wants the same thing. So hopefully you'll find this a fantastic consumer education episode, because I want to review a little bit of the buyer psychology, help sellers market to the right audience, because you need to know, based on your location, your price point, your home, the layout, who is your prospective or your potential buyer. Hopefully will help you better understand that buyers, you're not alone, okay? Especially when you're working with a full-time experienced realtor. And I want to reinforce why, following up on that, why professional guidance today matters more than ever, okay? Because there is a lot of information out there, and we want to try to help you sift through that information, okay? So if you have any questions after the show, you can certainly reach out to me, 401-409-5030. That's my work number. You can text me at that number too. The number here at the station, if you wanted to call in, is 401-769-0600. Okay, and all right, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the things tonight. So we're going to deal with, my goal is to position you as a consumer as a calm, knowledgeable person, so that you understand all generations, whether you are selling or buying. So if you're buying from someone, whatever the generation is, or if you're selling to whatever generation. Now, this is especially timely and kind of taps into the theme that we've been going over the past, few months. It connects very nicely with people who are going to be downsizing. I have some clients, some people that need senior housing. Maybe you're transitioning from single living to single domicile to assisted living. Or a senior group living situation. Also, this can bode well, can be helpful for first-time home buyers and multi-generational housing, because you'll have buyers in their 30s or 40s, and they're going to have people in their 60s or 70s living with them, or 20s or teens. So you have different types of needs and wants that you would need to deal with. And then, of course, affordability. First-time home buyers, one of the ways that they've been able to afford more home is by multi-generational living or buying a multifamily home. Okay. Now, shortages. We definitely have some inventory shortages in Rhode Island. We have about 1.8, that's it, 1.8 months of supply. Average balanced market is 6 months of supply. So interest rates have been going up and down the past month or two. The general consensus is they're going to be going down. However, I want to just talk about, because people are like, oh, I'm going to wait for rates to drop. I don't want to buy a house now. Well, hesitation is not a good policy for buying a home, making a major financial decision about your future. Because, buying a home is something it's the largest purchase of your life. And you are going to live there presumably for a long time. It's not like an apartment. So you are going to be there for quite a while. So you need to give it the value that it should have. You don't want to make a rash decision. And just for a little bit of perspective, okay, I want to go over some of the most recent data published by the Rhode Island Association of Realtors. So single-family home sales, the median sales price for the month of March was, hold on to your hat, folks, $514,250. That's an increase of 7.1%. I'm going to repeat this. The median sales price of a single-family home in the little old state of Rhode Island was $514,000. That's 7.1% an increase. The number of sales dropped 5.3%. The number of pending sales dropped by 13.5%. Okay. As I said before, 1.8 months of supply. So we really have tight inventory right now. And folks, 7% increase. Waiting is not an option. Buy the house now. When rates drop by a half a point or more, refinance. Okay, and I can refer you to lenders who are great lenders. We have local lenders who do a great job. And I just want to tell a little story. I have a buyer, and she came in. She had a pre-approval from one of the major financial institutions, a national bank. And this the loan officer is located in Dallas, Texas. Okay. And the only way to get to this person is you have to call. They have an 800 number with a 5-digit extension. So it's not something you can easily remember, especially if, at least I can't, trying to make the phone call while I'm driving. So call, leave a message, send an email, and, the buyer, she wanted to put an offer in on a house, and I had some questions because the house has solar panels. So there's a solar contract. The buyer has to assume the contract, and that's an extra, whatever it was, $115 a month. I need to know if she's going to be able to afford the house and the solar contract, because if not, she can't buy it. We're not going to put an offer in. So I had sent an email in yesterday, late morning, hadn't heard back. I go to call, and I called around a little after 6 o'clock our time. So it was a little after 5 o'clock his time, and he'd already left for the day. So I left a message and sent an email. I still haven't heard back from this guy. That's why I don't like dealing with national financial institutions who don't have people every step of the way here in Rhode Island. Okay, because if I send someone to Washington Trust, Shoreham Bank, Navigant Credit Union, Embrace Home Loan, Loan Depot, anyone like that. If I don't hear from them, I can drive to their office and say, hey, what's going on? Why aren't you returning my phone calls? Why aren't you responding to my emails? Because I'm doing this for my client, for the benefit of my client. So, folks, you have to think about that when you are talking to or deciding on a lender. And now I know what probably happened was, something she was able to do online, on her phone, or just do a quick phone call, because they advertise a lot. Maybe she has a checking account with this major bank. Excuse me. So it's easy. That's how they make a lot of money. But there's a local bank that's offering rates that are much lower than the rates she had on her pre-approval. So I said, hey, would you be interested in trying to get a lower rate with this local lender? She's like, yeah, sure. Let's see if it works. So that's what I did, because I'm looking out for my client. And here's something. So I sent all the same information to the local loan officer that I sent to the guy from the major bank that's in Dallas. And she got back to me today with all the answers I was looking for. And I still haven't heard back from the guy I sent it to yesterday. Okay? So this is why, folks, when I talk about using a local lender, this is why. Because you need houses. Sometimes it's like, the universe hears. It's, the house can sit on the market a long time. Bring a buyer by, they like it, and then all of a sudden 10 other buyers are interested at the same time, even though it's been on the market for 2 months. That's how it works. So I need to get information back. If I ask questions, I want a response quickly. And any good realtor would expect that. So that's a little story about why it's important to work with local lenders. And of course, we've got a great local public insurance adjuster in Vern Rainville. He's a Rhode Island guy, 484-300-8495. If you have any questions about a claim you think you may have on your homeowner's insurance, give Vern a call. He returns all calls within 24 hours, but you have to call him, 484-300-8495. Okay? If he can't save you money, he'll let you know. All right. And also Compass Title and Escrow, Anthony Betancourt and his team of attorneys and paralegals at Compass Title and Escrow, they do a great job taking care of our buyers and sellers. And I'm really fortunate that if I have any questions, I can call them up and they answer the questions right away. Because one of the things you want when you're working with a title and escrow company is you want to identify potential problems in advance. I don't want to find out about a problem 10 days before closing and then we need an extension, because now you've got the movers, they have to change, and then the new home that they're moving into has to change. So it's important to work with a reliable title and escrow company. And of course, Compass Title and Escrow, 401-379-7770, does a good job taking care of our clients. So again, we're going to talk about something that's incredibly important in today's market, bearing in mind only 1.8 months of supply. And if you need to know who you are, where you're going, what your wants, needs are, and who you are buying from or selling to. Different generations need different things from real estate in 2026. The truth is, a 28-year-old buyer doesn't think like a 68-year-old buyer. A Gen X seller has different motivations from a millennial seller. And understanding those differences can save people tens of thousands of dollars and a tremendous amount of stress, by the way. All right. So you see that the thing with residential real estate is it's emotional and it's financial. Okay. So you can't look at it as just numbers, because, you got to feel the vibe of the house. If you check all the boxes on the house, but you're not feeling it, you may want to pass on that house. All right. And different generations use real estate to solve different types of life problems. And I want to point out, even though the rates today are higher than they've been in the past several weeks, people are still buying homes. Sellers are still moving because there are just different reasons why people have to sell. Debt, nursing homes, assisted living, family consolidation, divorce, job relocation, expanding families. The people that are selling today usually must sell. Okay. It's still human needs are driving the demand and are driving inventory. Pay attention to this. People don't buy houses because rates are perfect. They buy houses because life keeps moving. The world keeps spinning around. Days keep spinning by. Keep flipping the days in the calendar. It's already the middle of May. Life happens. People buy and sell houses. So don't make an excuse that, oh, I'm going to wait for rates to drop. Don't, because you're going to end up spending more for the house. Okay? 7%. The median price of a house, call it $500,000. That's $35,000. When it goes up another 7%, that's $35,000 price increase. All right? So that's a lot of money. You don't want to have to pay more if you don't have to pay more. So the survey that I mentioned earlier, the NAR survey about buyers and sellers, the generational market trends, revealed something surprising. Both buyers and sellers, the most buyers and the most sellers, are baby boomers. You would think that maybe they're going to be the greatest number of sellers are going to be baby boomers, but they're also the greatest number of buyers. All right. Combined younger and older boomers, or even the silent generation, made up 42% of all buyers and 55% of all sellers. Gen X, 25% of buyers. Millennials, 26%, and Gen Z is still in low single digits. Now, why does this matter? This changes how homes should be marketed, where demand exists, what features matter in a home, how homes should be priced, and what renovations are worth doing and which ones you should pass on. So because boomers are the largest group of buyers, you have to factor that in when you're marketing your home, okay, or spending money on your home. Okay, boomers probably are not going to want to buy, maybe they will, I've sold some to these folks, but they're typically not going to buy a multi-level colonial house that's 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. Okay, that's something you need to bear in mind. Maybe if you have a multi-level home, if you could configure it so there's a bedroom on the first floor, so the second floor is only for guests or kids. Okay. Now, in the biggest little state in the union, Rhode Island, many boomers own homes with a tremendous amount of equity, especially with the appreciation we've experienced the past several years. Inventory, as we said earlier, is very tight. And many homeowners want to move. Many older homeowners want to move. Why? Maybe the stairs are getting tough. Maybe the house is too much to clean, to maintain. Maybe the yard is too big. But a lot of times folks are afraid of making the wrong decision. That's something I think that runs through all of the generations. Boomers are typically downsizing, relocating closer to family, moving into single-level living, seeking lower maintenance lifestyles, and looking at senior-related housing. Okay, so neighborhoods, communities that would cater to senior wants and needs. So this is a tremendous opportunity for folks who are specialists at downsizing, estate planning professionals, senior transition advisors, of which I'm one, contractors, lenders, um, and real estate professionals who understand these transitions and what are the touch points that need to be considered. The future of real estate is not just first-time buyers. It's also helping older homeowners transition wisely. Okay? The future of real estate is not just first-time home buyers, it's also helping older homeowners transition wisely. Young buyers many times are still struggling, but they're still buying. Okay? One of the unfortunate data points is that first-time home buyers dropped to only 21% of all buyers. That's the lowest share since the National Association of Realtors started tracking this data in 1981. Think about that. That's 45 years ago. It's almost a half a century ago. Yet, 60% of younger millennials were first-time home buyers. And 55% of Gen Z buyers were first-time home buyers. So some of the things, young buyers are fighting that make them want to buy a home are high rents, $2,500 a month, student loans, $400 or $500 per year, of college. Maybe there's some credit card debt. Maybe there's some car payments, some car loans. And then, of course, inflation. Inflation has been a little bit stubborn. Of course, we had a lot of inflation during the Biden administration. And folks, inflation doesn't go away. It becomes a part of life. One of the podcasts I listen to, he makes the analogy with weight gain. When you put on some weight, put on 40 pounds, then you lose 20. Okay, you lost 20 pounds, but you still have that original 20 pounds of the 40 that you put on. And then sometimes people gain more weight again. Inflation is like that. So, and you have inflation that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 10%. The prices go up. They typically don't come down. All right, the NAR report says 39% of younger millennials had student loan debt, and the median balance of that student loan debt is $30,000. Now that's very low because I know, most schools a lot of schools are 40, 50, 60, 70,000 bucks. My older daughter, she got some money for athletics, so she was only on the hook for about 30 grand per year. But I want to point out, because in spite of that, many young buyers mistakenly believe, 1, they need 20% down, 2, they need perfect credit, 3, they need zero debt, and 4, you need huge income. That's why it's important to work with a full-time experienced realtor who has relationships with a lot of local lenders like yours truly. You have questions, 401-409-5030. Call or text that number. I'll get back to you. That's my business number. And I'll answer any questions you have, whether you want to do something right now or not, with me or not. Many successful buyers will use FHA. If you're a veteran or active military, you can use the VA loan. Many times use family assistance, buy smaller starter homes or buy a multifamily home, and make strategic compromises. Okay? You don't need to have the biggest, best, cleanest, newest house and the best town and the best neighborhood and the best street. It makes them, have some flexibility. Maybe you don't get the garage. Maybe you don't get as big a yard as you want. Maybe the house needs some, elbow grease. 26% of younger millennials, receive down payment help from friends or family. 26%. Okay. So don't be shy about asking for help. Don't be timid. 19% of Gen X buyers purchased, get this, multi-generational homes. So that's a home that mom and dad or the grandparents can move into as well. They do this because they have aging parents or grandparents. Adult children are moving from home, cost savings, and then you have built-in childcare help if grandma and grandpa are there. Listen to this, folks, if you're not sure about what to do. The American dream hasn't disappeared. It's evolving. I'm going to repeat that. The American dream of home ownership has not disappeared. It's just evolving. Now, you're thinking about selling. What do buyers actually want? Well, that's like the million-dollar question, right? Excuse me. Buyers have priorities. According to this report by the National Association of Realtors, so this isn't my opinion, this is real data. Younger buyers typically are looking for affordability, commuting costs, convenience to jobs, walkability, internet searches, and energy efficiency. So maybe they want to live in an urban area where they can take public transportation or bike or walk to work. If they're living in, let's say, Rhode Island and work near Boston, okay, how much is it going to cost me to take the bus in every day as opposed to driving my car and paying for gas and parking? Younger buyers use the internet to search for properties, put in the criteria that they're looking for. So it's important to market your property digitally. Older buyers, what are they looking for? They may want to be in proximity or in the neighborhood of health facilities, doctor's offices, hospitals, things like that. They may want to be close to family. Smaller, typically single-level homes. Lower maintenance, not a big yard, needs a lot of grass cutting, mowing, things like that. Not a long driveway. And they're also looking at the potential of having senior housing, okay? 55 plus communities, things like that. Now, if you're going to be a seller, some of the things that you need to understand. Number one, not every improvement you make adds value equally across the board with other improvements. Younger buyers care deeply about heating and cooling efficiency, or even just heating and cooling, the viability of the system. Windows, okay, if your house has windows from the 1960s, 70s, or 80s, that could be a detractor because replacing those windows for a new home buyer will be thousands of dollars. They're going to want to know about energy costs, okay? And then, as I said earlier, commuting costs. So if you're going to be spending money, make sure that those things are covered. Your heating and cooling system work. If you don't have central air, maybe you want to look into putting a mini split in or something like that, because having some type of a cooling system is important. So here, if you are going to be selling today, next month, next year, before you spend money, before you spend $40,000 on luxury renovations, you need to ask yourself, would it be better to spend that money on updating my windows, putting a more efficient heating and cooling system in, maybe some maintenance-free vinyl siding, Or what can I do to lower my utility bills? Now, of course, if you own your home, call RISE, Rhode Island is Saving Energy. In Mass, it's Mass Saves, because they will insulate your home, give you energy efficient appliances, or sell them to you. It depends on the program when you're doing it. That is a good selling point. Do not, capital letters, do not, DONOT, put a solar system on your roof without consulting with a realtor first. And I showed a house today before I came into the studio. Really nice little house. It's well maintained. It has solar panels on the roof. Now, the good thing about this house is they're owned, they're not leased. So the payments go towards the loan to pay off the panels. So at the end of the term, you own your solar panels. But the roof is 12 years old. So they have 3-year-old solar panels on a 12-year-old roof. I don't know if that's a wise decision. Plus, the payment is $248 a month for the note on those solar panels. So now my buyer is looking at, okay, the house is X, my monthly payment's going to be Y, and on top of that I have to pay $248 a month until I pay down the $45,000 note for those solar panels. So you're buying a house for $475, really you're spending $520 on that house. Well, Joe, yes, but that's going to, cut back on their electric bill, or maybe, but we don't know. How much are they going to save? If you have 4 or 5 people living in the house, 6 people living in the house, they're using a lot of electricity. If you're using more electricity than the panels can generate, you're still going to have an electric bill. Okay? Something to bear in mind too, Rhode Island housing stock. Many Rhode Island homes are older. There may be deferred maintenance. A lot of times when folks get old, they can't keep up on everything around the house. You've got peeling paint, you've got some, cracks in the walkway, things like that. We have a lot of them have oil heat. If you're not in an established neighborhood closer to the city, most houses have oil heat because there's no gas in the street. So it's either propane or oil. Okay. And then a lot of times they may need insulation improvements. That's why if you're going to be selling your house, call RISE, get them in there. They're usually a few months behind. Okay. Those are the things that matter a lot to younger buyers. Okay. Today's buyers, they don't just buy the house, they buy the monthly payment and the utility bill. So if you can do things to show your buyer that utility payments, your heating, your electricity, may be less because of insulation, because you have energy efficient fixtures, things like that, that will help. Folks, you're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 AM. And of course, you can check us out at WNRI.com 24/7. We rebroadcast this show every Saturday at 1 in the afternoon. Okay. Shout out to Vern Rainville, Public Insurance Adjuster. Vern is licensed by the state of Rhode Island as a public insurance adjuster. So he works for you, the homeowner, not the insurance company. All you have to do is give him a call, 484-300-8495. Vern returns all calls within 24 hours. And of course, Anthony Betancourt and his crew over at Compass Title and Escrow, 401-379-7770. If you're going to be buying or selling real estate, or you think you want to become an investor, you want to generate an LLC, give them a call, 401-379-7770. Thank you so much for considering supporting our sponsors. So, how buyers are searching for homes today. The internet. Okay, I've got my little smartphone right here, and that's how most people start looking for homes. The internet starts the process, but agents close the deal. Okay, so I push my listings out to many, many different websites. Even I have a client who was looking to rent an apartment out in her house, helped her rent it out. First-time home buyers, the first step they took was looking online. 46% of them, that was the first thing they used. 85% of first-time home buyers used a real estate agent. And 88% purchased through an agent or a broker. 88%. So some started, then even more ultimately used. They switched over an additional 3% to use a real estate agent. A lot of times consumers may think, if everything's online, why do I need an agent? I can be my own agent. I can negotiate. This report proves, people still need a professional negotiator, a strategy, a game plan for what you want to accomplish. Contract guidance, okay. These contracts are required by state law, and they've been vetted by the Department of Business Regulation if you're working with a realtor. If you're not working with a realtor, you're going to have to pay someone, an attorney, or they're going to have to pay an attorney to generate a purchase and sales agreement, listing agreement, etc. A real estate professional, a realtor, can help you with pricing, whether you're buying or selling. Guidance through the home inspection, helping you determine, is this something that's major, something minor? Is this unreasonable to ask the seller to take care of this? And then also, managing emotions. I have to remain cool, calm, and collected. My client may be flipping out over something. It's very emotional, selling one house, moving it to another, the kids changing schools, whatever. I get it. But if I get all upset and histrionic and emotional, that's not going to help the situation. Part of my job as a realtor is the 3 C's: to remain cool, calm, and collected. And then what I have to really offer is my local market knowledge, okay? I look at homes every day. I talk to buyers every day. So I have my thumb on the pulse of the market. I know what buyers value most. Buyers primarily want agents to help find the right home, negotiate the terms, negotiate the price, and explain the process. And I want to point out, you have price and you have terms. The terms are different from one person to the next. Someone may be willing to pay more for a house if they can get all the terms that they want. Someone else may not be able to. My job is to identify which is which, and then still add maximum value to the transaction for my client. I have friends of mine, colleagues of mine, who've been in the business since MLS was a paper printout that you had to get, whatever it was, once a week. Now it's very different, because all that information, even if you don't have a realtor, you can go to one of the national websites and identify the properties that are for sale. But the role of realtors has evolved. Back in the day, we were basically door openers. Okay, here's the list. Which ones you want to look at? Okay, I'll make the appointment, and then we'll go together, and I'll show you the house and open the door. And you offer what you want. We negotiate the price. But today, a good realtor is a lot more than that. Of course, we still show you the house. We still, open the door, so to speak. But we're strategic advisors, helping you assess everything as it relates to the home you're buying or selling. What's going on in the marketplace? Where are we in the business cycle? What are buyers or sellers looking for? What are your wants? What are your needs? That's why it's so important as your realtor. I ask lots of questions of my buyers because that's how I get knowledge. I become educated about what my buyer or seller is looking for, what they need to accomplish, and then I can educate them and advocate for them. We can establish a negotiation strategy. And then do things like to protect potential outcomes. I was talking about lenders before. There were deadlines on a contract. Now, Rhode Island is, unlike Massachusetts, Rhode Island, as of right now, is not a time is of the essence state. So if it says you're going to close on May 27th, I don't know if that's a weekday or not, but okay, if the buyer needs an extension, they can request an extension. And as long as it's not ridiculous, the seller will usually say, okay, we'll do an extension. They may not be happy about it, but they'll do it. My job is to not let deadlines pass so that the seller then has the right to keep my buyer's deposit. Okay? There are specific deadlines that we need to adhere to in the contract. Part of my job is to protect the outcome for my client. Okay? And then as far as like a negotiation strategy, that's going to differ from one situation to the next based on the buyer. I'm working with the buyer based on what he or she needs to accomplish. If you're going to be homeless in 2 weeks and the seller is trying to extend for a week and a half, all right, there may need to be some monetary compensation from the seller to the buyer because you're going to have to stay in a hotel for a week and a half, and you may have problems with the mover. So our negotiation strategy would have to adjust. As far as everything, there's so much information available online. But if you don't know how to evaluate and assess that information, it's useless. Google can show you a house, but Google cannot protect you from making a bad decision. Any of the national websites, you can look at the house, but those websites are not going to protect you, and AI is not going to protect you from making a bad decision. Now, sellers, homes are still selling. But again, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, pricing strategy matters. The median sales price, 99% of the asking price. Okay, that's a national number, not a Rhode Island number. 51% of sellers reduced their asking price. Check this out, folks, 4 or more times. 51% of all sellers reduced their asking price 4 or more times. Let that sink in. But homes are selling. The market is not collapsing. Buyers are more selective. Okay, if they look at a house and it's nice and the price isn't too crazy, but maybe there are 1 or 2 things that they're not completely sold on, they're going to say, you know what, let's tap the brakes. Let's see if there's something else out there that we can find for the same price. And if they don't need to be out of their current house by a specific date, time is on their side. So buyers are being more selective. Pricing does matter. Condition matters. Presentation matters. That's why, unless um, the, the seller doesn't want it, I use a professional photographer. Aerial photographs, floor plans, so you can see what you're dealing with. This is all part of my strategy for my clients. Staging. Okay. Maybe you need to remove some books off the shelves. You need to get rid of the tchotchke stuff. Take some furniture that's those overstuffed lazy boy reclining chairs. Get them out of the house. Put them in a storage pod. Price realistically. Don't be greedy. Remember, if you want to sell your house, if that's your objective, to sell your house, price it so it sells. Okay. Maybe you want to do a pre-inspection. Get a home inspector to go out there, do an inspection, boom. Put that report on MLS. Deal with, if you're going to do that, deal with any deferred maintenance issues. And avoid making emotional pricing mistakes. Now, this report from NAR, the National Association of Realtors, says sellers most want agents to 1, market their home, 2, price it competitively, and 3, sell within a time frame. Now, the time frame today is very different than it was in the 2010s, where a house would be on the market for a year. Now, they expect their house to be sold within 2 to 4 weeks. This is where we try to create value. Okay. So in Little Rhody, even in a low inventory market, overpriced homes are going to sit, and they're probably going to have a couple of price reductions. Poorly prepared homes are going to struggle. They're going to sit for a while. Homes that are a mess, sloppy, not clean, throw them in there too. And yes, folks, buyers are still comparing value very carefully. You'd be surprised how many buyers take notes on everything, track with a spreadsheet everything they look at. Inventory is low, but buyers are not desperate. They're much more pragmatic before putting an offer in. So real estate is still one of the greatest wealth building tools in America. If you're a parent or parents and you have kids, the best thing you can do for your kids is to own a home. I can help you achieve that. We can put together a game plan, whether you're ready now, a year, or 2 years down the road. So despite interest rates not being as low as they were before, despite the existence of inflation, despite all the cacophony from politics, left, right, everything, and other uncertainties, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, calm and chaos, what's going on with the war, they tried to kill the president, all this lot of uncertainty, a lot of chaos going on. Push that aside, because 79% of buyers still believe housing is a good financial investment. You want to be part of that 79%. You don't want to be part of the folks that are sitting on the sidelines watching prices continue to go up. The thing you want to bear in mind is home ownership brings stability to families. It's security. They've actually done studies, and I can't remember the numbers, but families that own their home, the kids do better in school compared to renters. This is in the aggregate. It's not every individual case. Okay, that's across millions of households. Owning your own home allows the building of roots to occur in a neighborhood, in a community. participating in a community, being part of something larger than yourself. That's very stabilizing and good for families. Home ownership is still the number one way to create generational wealth. You create an opportunity maybe to help your aging parents, or for your kids to help you when you're aging. Maybe you can even help out adult children. Convert a room in the basement so they can live there. Save some money. Home ownership, it contributes to creating opportunities for families because of all the items I just mentioned. Okay. Now, many of you know I'm involved with the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, NAREP. And the Hispanic community has been buying homes more consistently than any other demographic group. You know, they're creating multi-generational wealth, family support systems with multi-generational living. They realize that home ownership provides long-term stability and it facilitates generational planning. Okay? Every generation faces challenges, but every generation also creates opportunities. Never forget that people became millionaires during the Great Depression. There were opportunities there. And one thing that never changed through all of the ups and downs in the economy, people still want a place to call home. So, folks, we're coming up to the end of the show. Whether you are buying your first home, downsizing, helping parents transition, helping adult children buy, or you just simply are trying to understand today's market, I'd be honored to help you, to guide you through the process. I want to thank you for listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show. My number is 401-409-5030. If you have any questions, please call or text me again at 401-409-5030. Thanks for listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show, and we will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.